Welcome to the Monday edition of Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC and Unity Point Health. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Lila Stafford in the house as my co-host, and welcoming back Bob Montserrat. It just seems like you've been gone forever, but you were only gone 2 weeks.
That's true. I was gone, and I was, like I told you, I'm going to be gone again.
Yeah, and plus you're about to have a new daughter this Saturday.
Correct.
Your oldest son?
Youngest and only.
Oh, and only. Okay, well then only son is getting married.
Yeah.
To a young lady this Saturday.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm going to miss
a whole bunch of stuff. Well, we're glad to have you back, Bob. Ryan producing, and my special guest today is a good friend of mine, Jeff. Jeff, how long you been sober?
22 years.
22 years, and we're going to hear about Jeff's story today and what his life was like and what happened and what his life is like now. Now, you were born and raised in a little town in Iowa.
Yeah, Sheraton, Iowa.
Sheraton. How? What took you there? What brought your family to Sheraton?
Well, we have family-owned business down there, a steel fabrication company, and yeah, just born and raised down in Sheraton. Grew up there my whole life, and it's a nice little Mayberry kind of town, you know. Walking to the swimming pool, riding bikes all over the place. Shooting BB guns and having fun. You know, just a nice little town.
Safe place.
Oh, yeah.
To grow
safe.
up.
Yeah.
And when did you first taste alcohol?
You know, my first memory of that was, when I was, I want to say 10 or 11 years old. I have a memory of going on a hayrack ride with a bunch of friends of mine. And it was in the fall. And I remember feeling very uncomfortable on the hayrack ride. And I don't know if it was the boyfriend-girlfriend thing that I was starting to pay attention to or what it was, but I climbed up in the cab of the tractor, the guy that was pulling the tractor, and with another friend of mine. And he had a little hip bottle of blackberry brandy. And he gave me a little cap full along with my friend. And I just remember I felt 10 feet tall. Even then, just tasting that tiny little bit, there was something psychological about the alcohol, but also about up in front of that tractor that, you know, and all my problems were behind me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
How
And
old
it kind of
were you?
made I think I was 11, maybe 12. I was young.
Yeah.
Now, were there any alcoholism in your family?
No, there really wasn't. People that like to enjoy themselves, but you know, I can't look to anybody and see that anybody else had, you know, real issues with alcohol. And when the further I got into the program, the 12-step program, I realized, you know, I was really a volunteer for all of this stuff. Whatever it was, I couldn't attribute it to genes or anything like that. I volunteered for everything I got.
You did everything on your own.
Yeah.
All right, so you're 11, 12 years old, and you drink that cap of blackberry brandy. So then what's next? I mean, what from that moment on, was everything different?
It was. I mean, I just, I don't know that I drank soon after that. I have another memory of finding my way into the back seat of a car that a couple of guys were going out to buy some, what were they? Little Mickey's Big Mouse, and this kind of beer they used to have a long time ago. And I sat in the back of this car and I chugged one of those things down, and I remember that it impressed the people in the car. So it was always something around that, social acceptance and feeling good. But a switch had definitely been flipped in my head with the brandy years before, and then that as well. It kind of reinforced this whole idea of that was something that I could do and something that some way I could be accepted by my peers.
Did anybody in your family ever drink? I mean, was there beer in the house? Was there blackberry brandy in the house?
Yeah, but it wasn't it never appeared to me to be an abused thing.
Okay.
At all.
Did you ever borrow from your supply at the house?
Oh, sure, from time to time, but that wasn't a chronic thing either. Later on in high school, that's when it really started to grow with me. You know, I would find my way to parties and all sorts of places, being able to drink and being able to enjoy myself and get loose and that sort of thing. And it really it took off probably after I turned the age of, I don't know, 15, 16.
Because you probably drove at 14 or 15 in that town?
No, I drove at 16, but I was on my moped at 14, 15, so you can do a lot on your moped.
You had a moped with like a little flag on the back of it running through Creston?
Right.
Or Sheraton?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And
I was just thinking the flag would say, I'm drunk.
Right.
no, the flag would say, what's that line? Not kiss me, I'm drunk me, I'm kiss. No, I don't know what it would be. All right, so you get your license, and was it easy to come by?
Oh, I think it was. In a small town, you know, people weren't asking a whole lot of questions, and you were always going off to parties, and that's an interesting question because I've never thought about how easy or difficult it was to come by. I just think if you're predisposed to get alcohol, you know, the thing that you want more than anything else, you're just going to get it. So I can't.
That's true in a big anywhere.
Yeah.
If you want it, you'll find a way to get it.
Now, did you have friends that were equally as enveloped into this drinking?
You know, I wasn't paying attention to anybody else's drinking metrics, really. I mean, we weren't having like contests or anything like that. I just knew the kind of people that I needed to hang around with so that I could be doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And escape. And I was the kind of kid that fit in with everybody. I fit in with all the different cliques, the different kind of social groups, and being able to morph your way around like that helps you get close to alcohol and helps you feel accepted and all that sort of thing too.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was just thinking before you got to that point, I was thinking, well, we had the hoods, and they hung around the library and smoked cigarettes. And then we had the jocks who tried to hang around the good-looking girls. And then there were me. I was a band and theater geek and music guy. And but you're right, because I could go to each group. You know, my best friend was the big guy on the football team.
Yeah.
And I hung around with some hoods, too. So I just kind of morphed. I like that term. You just kind of morph into who you need to be.
That's the way it went. I just kind of fit in with everybody. Yeah, fit in with everybody.
All right, Jeff Johnson is our guest today. He's originally from Sheraton. 22 years sober. What's the sobriety date?
January 23rd, 1992.
And what was going on in that day?
On January 23rd, 1992. Well, I was attending the University of Iowa at the time.
Well, now, previous to that, did your drinking ramp itself up when you got to the University of Iowa?
It did. I mean, we always say over a period of time it gets worse, never better, and that was the same thing that I experienced. I mean, I just never stopped. They invited me to leave the University of Iowa a couple of times.
Did they really?
It's so funny because, like I say about the ease of getting alcohol, you know, I always think if you put some problem in between an alcoholic and their drink, they'll solve the problem, whatever it is. Dare I say, curing cancer. I mean, whatever I've got to do to get the alcohol. So I kind of wrapped up in the booze and the partying and that sort of thing. Most of it was on my own. You know, I kind of kept to myself, but I tried to be a little bit social, but I was really kind of a closet drunk. And I ended up ditching a lot of classes and spending more time with the booze than I did with my studies, I'm sorry to say. And I ended up being put on academic probation at the university. And
So did I.
I did not know.
What was your grade point average? Mine was a 1.7.
Yeah. Mine might have
I
been
had a
that.
3.7 to stay in.
But they invited me to leave. And so I got a hold of my dad and had him come up. And he was being as helpful as he could be. And we talked to the university together about getting me reinstated. They said I needed to have I don't know what, 3.5 grade point average, something I'd never achieved before in order to get reinstated in good status. And of course I did that the very next semester.
Wow.
And
But I bet the booze didn't slow down, did it?
it didn't. It didn't slow down at all. And
It's
that
the same story with me.
Is
I
it?
had to have a 3.7 to stay in school, and I did it.
Yeah,
Because if you have to do it, you have to do it. You just
Yeah.
do it.
you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that happened to me twice. Because my grades failed again, and they showed me the door again, and they
I
gave me
forgot
the
to buy
same
the
option.
books. One semester, it was like, oh, we have to have books to go to college. So I had to buy them.
It was terrible, terrible, terrible.
So what was your drink of choice?
Towards the end, it was Stolies. I liked vodka. I can remember a terrible morning when I was supposed to be in a physics class, and I was at one of the local taverns in Iowa City drinking Stolies on ice and throwing up on myself, trying to pretend I was reading the newspaper. And it was 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, wondering what I was doing, why I was here.
Okay, now I have a question for you. I moved into Iowa when I was 21 years old. And I was a University of Nebraska student.
Mm-hmm.
And all I have ever heard about since the day I came here was that Iowa is such a party school, such a party school, such a party school. What makes Iowa so much more of a party school than other schools?
Oh, I don't know, Mac.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean,
Well, downtown, when I went there, downtown was all bars. And it was back then. It's not this way now. You could be drunk out in the streets. I mean, now if you're out in the streets, you get a ticket. But back then, you just go from bar to bar, and you're drunk, and nobody really cared.
Well, wasn't it 18 was the legal age to be in bars?
That was after I was there.
Okay.
No, when I was, this is a cruel trick. I was grandfathered in. I was able to drink when I was 19.
Okay.
And that changed after the year that I went to the University of Iowa, they upped the drinking age to 21. So I never had fake IDs or anything like that. Had the free pass to go get in and drink. And
Everyone had fake ID when my time.
Yeah.
Because I remember handing it to a guy at a club, and he looked at it and he said, if this was you, you'd be my cousin. And I go, oh, who was my roommate at the time.
Oh,
And I said,
wow.
well, can I get in anyway? He goes, go on.
That's funny. I haven't heard that one yet. All right. And so it was hard liquor. It wasn't beer.
yeah, it was everything. But I enjoyed the vodka. I enjoyed the hard liquor. I enjoyed the Jack Daniels. In high school, I would do that. I would spend a snowy evening in a car with a buddy of mine drinking Jack Daniels. We'd turn the lights off, and the snow and a full moon would illuminate the road, and it gives me goosebumps thinking about that. But
But it was fun.
that's what we do. Yeah.
Jeff Johnson is my guest today, originally from Sheraton, Iowa, a little town about 5,500?
45.
4,500, okay. And been sober since 1992, 22 years. And as most folks, just had a drink of something at some point during middle school, grade school, and it felt good. He liked what it felt like. And so that began a how many year career?
24, 25.
24, 25-year career of drinking alcohol. Any DUIs, anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I got a DUI, and I thought I told myself after that, I got a deferred sentence on that, and I told myself, that's it, I'm done. I'm never going to drink and drive again. And I went to classes, all the requisite classes that you have to attend after you get one of those things. And they said a statistic that gave me chills. They said the average drunk driver drives 200 times drunk before they get caught. And I thought that was about right. That was at least right for me. I'd driven at least that many times. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she drove me around for 6 months, kind of chauffeured me and everything. And then I remember the day I got my license back, I went back and got behind that car, and I thought, I'm not going to do this again. And the next thing I know, I thought, well, 1 or 2 beers is not going to be a big deal.
Jeff Johnson is our guest. This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC, here live on KTIA. We're coming back.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care. Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. Welcome back to Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Unity Point and Powell CDC. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't know is Unity Point has different locations in different communities throughout the state, and also outside of the state.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you have a acclaimed mental health issue clinic in the Quad Cities. Is that right? Someplace over there, eastern Iowa.
I imagine we do.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, you do. You have a very well acclaimed where someone would go who's having mental health issues. Like with Powell, it's obviously there are usually mental health issues, but it's drugs and alcohol related. And Unity Point has so a program like that over, and I believe it's in the Quad Cities. So if you have someone who is not issued any problems or issuing any problems with alcohol or drugs, but has mental health issues, you know, you read in the Des Moines Register every time you turn around that mental health is being cut here and mental health care is being cut there and insurance doesn't cover it the way they used to. Well, Unity Point does cover it, and they care about someone who's having those mental health issues. They're serious. They need to be approached. They need to be prayed about, and they need to be consulted and taken care of. And they can do that for you at Unity Point. So we encourage you to check them out. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, watching the chat along with Lila Stafford in the house today. Ryan producing. Now, Bob, you just got back from the 25th anniversary of Flight 232 in Sioux City.
That's correct.
Because you were one of the forensic scientists. Would that be the right term? Or
Yes.
DMORD officials?
It was forensic scientists working for the state.
All right.
Yeah.
And how many people lost their lives in that flight?
112.
112. And how many people attended the reunion?
Well, I don't know. There had to be probably 300 or 400 people.
Yeah.
How many people were saved? How many people didn't die in that?
184.
Okay.
So there were more that got saved than died. Yeah. And what's the stark thing that you'll walk away with from this reunion? What's the thing that surprised you the most?
Well, I would say that after talking to some of the people that were on the plane when it crashed, the thing that I noticed was that and as they were talking about what they experienced, it was, to me, almost like for them it was just yesterday, even though it was 25 years ago. And also the point made is that there really is never closure. You know, people use that term closure all the time for when there's a death or something that happens in your life and that you can close it out and let it go. But what they were saying was it's not closure, it's just acceptance. And you learn to live with what happened to you. So that was
So would
something.
you use the word healing there too? Do you think those people have healed, or do you think they're still scarred by that?
Well, their physical wounds are healed for the most part for those that were damaged, and some were not even damaged that walked out. But there are psychological scars that are still there, and some people said they had therapy for years.
Yeah.
I would imagine there were some guilt issues on a lot of people that they walked away and other people died.
Well, I think the person that had the most guilt was the pilot himself.
Okay.
I've heard him say that.
And
But it wasn't his fault.
no,
but he felt guilty for anyone that died. is
He
what I
felt
heard him say.
responsible.
Yeah.
that he didn't do a good enough job, even though no one else could reproduce what he had done,
Yeah.
because there was nothing in the books for total hydraulic failure.
Yeah.
So there was nothing in writing to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so they had to ad-lib it. And even when they had 10 different DC-10 crews simulate the similar circumstances, they all crashed, every one of them. So he made it in. So
Yeah.
instead of looking at it, I mean, he saved 184 people, but he was looking at the loss of life.
Yeah.
And you said that he spoke over 1,700 times
Right, about
since the crash.
Right, since the crash, about what had happened and what they've learned, lessons learned.
And he gives the money to charity.
Yes.
What did you say?
Very
He was
humble man.
82, 84?
85. He's
85 years old. God's
Yes.
keeping him around to continue to tell that story.
Yes.
Did any of the people fly to get to the?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yes.
I don't. I mean, I would imagine for a lot of them, it's probably very hard to get on a plane.
It had been for
Yeah.
many of them for years, and a few would never fly again.
Yeah.
But it was a DC-10 that crashed 25 years ago, and they no longer use DC-10s for passenger service anymore. But 2 weeks after that disaster, we had a vacation that had been planned. And so we decided to go on that vacation, and the plane that they flew us on was a
A
DC-10.
DC-10.
Oh,
And that's where I spent a lot of time
praying.
recovering people out of the body of that thing. And I told my wife, she thought I was going to freak out. And I told her, I said, I don't recognize it upside, right side up.
Yeah.
What I saw was it upside down in the cornfield, so it looked different.
Yeah.
But the fact that I knew I was on that plane, kind of, you think about it.
Yeah.
Now, the Malaysia Flight 7, I think it is, that was shot down by the Russians over in Ukraine. What does that bring back for you? Does that bring back smells? Does that bring back taste? Does it bring back sounds?
Well, yeah, you look at the wreckage, and of course it looks similar. I've been on other plane crashes too, and you see parts of planes, and then you see, of course, the bodies that are mingled. They didn't show that on TV, but that's the part that I would see. And the fact that kind of blew me away is they said there were 80 kids on board that plane.
Yeah.
232 had 52 kids on board. And so for rescue or recovery people, it's not a rescue anymore because they're all dead. It's a recovery effort, and there's a difference between. But for personnel like me, it's difficult, especially if you have kids. It's more difficult to take the death of
Yeah.
innocent kids that had a whole life in front of them that was just taken away by an act of man. Sioux City, or that was, it was still an act of man in the sense that it was a defect in a mechanical part that failed. And it shouldn't have, because they made a mistake when they built it. They can still consider that an accident. Nobody caught that. Where this one is a deliberate shoot down of a plane, not really knowing you know, you could say, well, they didn't know there were passengers in the plane, but so why even give it do that?
Well, the reports that we're getting is they had shot down the same kind of plane earlier that week that had Army military stuff on it. And I'm sure you've heard the voicemail.
Yes.
Between the radio, the guy, you know, fires the shot off and hits the plane, and they're all cheering. And then somebody says in Russian, I think there were passengers on that plane. And it just all goes quiet.
Right.
You know, you see pictures, like this morning, I saw the pictures of suitcases on the ground that weren't even, they were whole.
Yeah.
And I thought, isn't that weird that suitcase made it, but a person didn't? I don't know. There's just something saying that.
Well, it would not have been possible. Would it have been possible for a human being who was not hurt by the explosion? Would it be possible for them to survive the fall? I mean, you're 3 miles up, aren't you?
It is possible, and the reason I say that is because there's a man, Lawrence Gonzalez, and he wrote a book on 232 that just came out. But he also, one of his first books was Surviving Survival, and his father was in World War II and was a bomber pilot, and his plane was shot down and crashed, and he survived the crash, and his crew never survived. So, yes, I mean, that was a case where he did survive.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but, you know, it's not likely, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Well, because I was wrong. That plane was at 30,000 feet.
Right.
Yeah, because
So-
they said they thought it was safe there, and then
Yeah,
they
because
can
so
reach
you're
up to
5
72 or
miles up.
something.
It's only safe for the shoulder-fired rockets that are the heat seekers,
Okay.
which they would, a lot of times they expect that's what the people would have, not the sophisticated ones that are long-range that only certain powers would have.
Like
Yeah,
Russia brought
like
in.
Russia.
Well,
And they would have to help them even do it, is what I
Right.
heard. So, yeah.
thanks for sharing your experience with us. And I thought about you this weekend, and it's kind of hard to use the word reunion because I don't ever apply the word reunion to anything sad. Usually reunion is a happy thing.
Well, yeah, it's a reunion for those that have survived, and so you're getting together. So it's, you know, it's a bunch of people that have separate lives all over the place that come together to observe an anniversary of a tragic event, which many times in these crashes or these situations, no one's around or survives to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that is the case. And when I went there, I went to, and I got to see many of the people I work with that I hadn't seen for years. And so that was one of the reasons I went up to see them again, because it's 25 years and people have passed away, and people are up there in age, so may not see many again.
Yeah.
Did it affect you? I'm just thinking that reunion with your friends. I imagine it was traumatic for you guys.
You mean experiencing that crash?
Yes.
Yes, it was for me. And I had 10 years experience in homicide investigations, CSI work. And I thought I was immune from having feelings or emotions because I said I've seen all this before. It was not true.
Yeah.
I had problems with it.
Yeah.
And
I
it
can
took a
see.
while for me to recover from that,
Yeah.
psychologically speaking.
Yeah, because the next time they called you said no.
Well, I said no for the initial call for New York.
Yeah.
Because I knew what to expect. I've been on a number of disasters before that. I know what it's like, and I didn't want to go through that pain knowing what I was going to experience.
Yeah.
But I eventually said yes and went.
And you're glad you did.
Yes, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, God really spoke. Can you tell that story real quick? We've got about 2 minutes before the break.
Well, when I was out there, I was assigned as mental health to help the DMORT people, New York City firefighters and police. And so I was going around from different areas. Went to Ground Zero, went to the Family Assistance Center, other areas. But then I went to a chapel out there associated with the Trinity Church there, St. John's. I think it's John's, isn't it? St. John's Chapel. And went in there because it was a respite center for people that needed to rest. They were laying in the pews and doing all that. And I went in there looking for our DMORT people. But when I went in there, I had a sense of power. I mean, it was a sense of a spiritual sense that God was in this place, and it was just heavy on me. And I never felt that way before. And all I wanted to do was pray. And so I just found people were giving out food, and I'm walking through it. They didn't sense anything, and I sat down and prayed. I sat in a pew, but I knew I had to go because people were waiting for me to come out. And so I left and then went down to Ground Zero to meet with some DMAT people. And I talked to a man. I was there for about 5 minutes with him, found out he was a believer, and he said, "Hey, did you go to St. John's Chapel out there? Did you go down there?" And I said, "Yes." "Why?" He said, "Did you feel anything?" And I said, "Yes." "How about you?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I walked over to the door of that building and I leaned on it and I felt a bolt of electricity go through me. It was just a stone wall." And he says, "I fell on my butt." The pastor ran over to me because he saw me fall, and he came over and said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yes." He says, "What happened?" He says, I felt the power of God that just touched me so much that it shocked me, and I fell on my butt." And the pastor said to him, "You did?"
Whoa.
Because he didn't feel anything. So it was one of those things that was a confirmation that what I was feeling was a real thing.
Yeah.
And my hope was to go back there, and I never had a chance to get out there. And so I may be able to.
Yeah, you're getting ready to retire from the States, so you'll have some extra time.
That's correct. So that's what I did. And I may. I mean, the museum is open now. I wanted to go back out there and see that, but it was an experience that I didn't expect, and so that changed me. I mean, I was changed from that time on.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Totally, and came back a changed person.
Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, one of our cohorts here, sharing some of his stories as a DMORT expert as he flies to Katrina and to 9/11 and Flight 232. Lila Stafford in the house, our special guest today, Jeff Johnson. And when we come back, he's about 22 years old. He's barely survived the University of Iowa, and the alcoholism is getting worse and worse, and so is the consumption of alcohol. What happened? What made him stop on that 23rd day of January so many years ago? We'll find out as he shares his story with you and me and all of us from Powell CDC and KTIA. This is Recovery Monday.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, here we are on Recovery Monday, sponsored by Powell CDC. Lila Stafford in the house, along with Bob Montserrat and Ryan. And talking here with Jeff Johnson, a guy who's been sober for 22 years. And I guess we could say it was you were about 22 years old when it started getting tough?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
You had graduated. Did they finally give you a degree from Iowa, or they just kick you out?
After I sobered up, they gave me the degree.
Oh, really? So you sobered up in the middle of college?
I sobered up in the middle of college, yeah.
Man, that had to be hard.
Did you use a program at all, or you just got sober?
12-step program?
I did the 12-step program, yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So when you join a 12-step program in a college town like that, are there a lot of other college kids in that meeting, or are they mainly
There are.
old-timers?
It was, my perception of alcoholics was that, the long beard and living under a bridge.
Yeah.
And so when I got invited to my very first meeting and walked in and I saw people in suits and ties and old men and young men and women and all sorts of, real cross-section, I was surprised. But there were a lot of other students in there, too, which really surprised me.
People that you knew?
Yeah, well, my one of my closest friends had sobered up before I did. And I had I guess the best way to tell the story is what walked me up to it is I was sitting in a physics class. I had gotten loaded the night before, and I went to a physics lecture. And I remember sitting in the lecture, being coherent, and watching the professor teach, but also at the same time realizing that I was still inebriated. I was still too drunk to be able to take notes. And I was caught right in between some weird place, and it scared me. I realized then that something was wrong. And prior to that, I'd talked to psychiatrists about what I thought were girlfriends, and it turned out they would always talk about alcohol, and I never brought up the subject of alcohol, so I was kind of surprised, But so all that kind of, that day in that physics class kind of strung a bunch of things together for me, where I had a realization that alcohol was my problem. I called a friend of mine a week later after I had another terrible night of drinking, and I'd become violent with a roommate, which I had never done before. That next morning, I called a friend of mine who had sobered up a few weeks before I had, and I said, "Will you take me to a meeting?" And he refused. He said no. I said, "Really?" And he said, "No, not until you're serious, unless you really want this thing, because I'm not going to waste my time doing this."
Wow.
Which was a powerful and important thing for me to hear. And so I begged him. I said, "Please, I'm done." And he said, "Okay, I'll take you." So he took me to my first meeting over in Iowa City at a wonderful little location. And I walked in there and I saw this, like I mentioned, this real bouillabaisse of all kinds of people involved with the university and around town. And they started to go around the room and they started to tell my story. And every one of them sounded like Socrates. They sounded like the smartest person I'd ever heard before, because they were telling me exactly what I had just been through. And I remember there was one guy in the corner of the room. He passed gas, made a big noise, and then he made an amend to the group about doing that. And everybody laughed. And I thought, how bizarre that somebody just did that. And then everybody thought it was so funny. And there were a dozen other things that happened in that first 12-step meeting that captured me. And by the time it had gone all the way around, there must have been 50 people in the room. By the time it finally got around to me, I said, "I'm Jeff and I'm an alcoholic." And that's when I knew. And that was the time I came home.
You came home.
I came home. It's funny to feel like you fit in finally. Prior to that, all of my life had been trying to fit in, trying to get with the group, trying to mask myself so that I didn't feel so uncomfortable or so odd or so awkward. And then finally, I found my home in a meeting of other people that were trying to kick the same stuff that I was trying to kick, and it just fit like a
So you felt like you belonged.
like a new set of clothes. Yeah,
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah,
Absolutely fit.
I absolutely know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I in my own establishments that I owned, that I could get drunk in, I never felt as home as I did in my Saturday morning home group.
Yeah.
See, that wasn't true with me.
No?
I knew at a deep place that I belonged there, but I didn't want to belong there. So in my head, I kept trying to make myself different than everybody in the room.
Oh.
So it was like, oh, I come from a good family, and people with good families don't go to these meetings. I mean, it was just stupid.
Well, you told me once you white knuckled it for 4 years.
I didn't white knuckle. I just quit. But
You didn't go to meetings or anything.
I didn't go to meetings, but I wasn't getting healthier. All I did was take the alcohol out of my life, and it was out of anger. And I was going to show my husband, this is how you do it. So I was angry at everything, and then eventually, not growing or learning anything, I was going insane. So my therapist said, you're so messed up, I need more help. I can't do this by myself, and you can't do it by not going to meetings. You've got to go to some meetings and get some help. So
that's when you did.
Yeah, only because she made me.
But the alcohol is a habit, and going through all that process is a habit. So even when I felt so at home in those meetings, I still didn't necessarily want to quit. I knew I needed to quit. And so I can relate to what you're saying because I spent the next, at least 8 years in my recovery trying to disqualify myself from that program, looking at all of the differences and the nuances that walked into the room and saying, well, I'm not that. I haven't been shot yet.
Yeah.
I didn't lose my car. I didn't lose my job. I didn't do all this kind of everything that was different. And I would say, I'm not that guy. And so I kept trying to find a way out of the program.
Yeah.
But you stayed sober.
I stayed sober, yeah.
Now, when you said you moved home, I thought you meant you moved back to Sheraton. But no, you stayed in Iowa City.
He felt at home.
Yeah, I felt at home.
Okay, and then completed your degree.
In the program and completed my degree, yep.
And then what did you do?
Then I left the university and came back to a family business, moved back to Des Moines.
Okay.
And I was participating in recovery in the 12-step program all along. However, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do it this way. But what happened, this is just my story. I still didn't want to look at all of the hard truths of the life that I had lived. I still didn't want to give up all those character defects.
Had you done a 4th step yet?
I had not done a 4th step yet, which is a very necessary thing. But for me, I avoided that. I did the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd step, and I stopped right there.
And your sponsor wasn't riding you to do the 4th and 5th? Or?
Because I would fire my sponsors.
Oh.
So
I can't do that.
As soon as they would give me too much pressure, I would say, see you later. And then it would take me a nice long time to find another one, which was
And what finally would motivate you to get another one? Because it's got to be internal, because there's nobody outside saying you can't come in here unless you've got a sponsor.
Because I was bullheaded enough, honestly, I was bullheaded enough that I wasn't going to drink again. I just wasn't going to do that. But I had been refunded all of my misery that I had felt while I was drinking. And so it's almost like, why didn't I drink? Because then I would have felt a little bit better anyway. But I was stuck in all of my misery. And, the cold hard truth is I felt like I was going to kill myself. And because there was no way to escape the wreckage of my past, there was no way to clean it up. I was not willing to be honest with somebody to the extent that I needed to. And I was caught up in fear.
Life.
I was caught up in fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All right, we're going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll have about 8 minutes. And so I need you to share with me what happened that you finally, you reached out to a sponsor, or you got mugged by Jesus, or you met your bride, or what happened?
Yeah, all 3 of those actually.
All right, and that's what we'll hear when we come back with Jeff, 22 years sober. Did you hear from Dee?
Maybe after the break.
Okay. We've got a very special friend today who's celebrating a sobriety birthday, and it's way, way up there. And so we want to make sure that we recognize her. She's been on this program, and she works with Powell. So it's important that we recognize that. Did she tell you?
Yeah, I just heard from her.
How long?
39 years.
39 years for Dee.
Yeah.
And you've seen Dee, Google Dee on the Restoring Horror, the Recovery Monday page, and you can go back and find that show. She's about 3'7". And man, is she a powerhouse.
Yeah.
She was one of my favorite guests. Congratulations, Dee.
39 years. Congratulations.
We're coming back live here to Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC and Unity Point here on 99.3. This is KTIA, Iowa.
father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy to Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm gonna keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy to Be.
Ten minutes for the top of the hour here on Recovery Monday on this beautiful day in Central Iowa. Jeff Johnson is our guest. So, all right, you graduate from Iowa. You're sober. You go home to work in the family business. How many years until you finally?
8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
So you've been sober for 8 years.
Yep.
You are not. You're in the program, but
Yes.
not really following the steps. What are you doing in the program then?
You try not to go to the same. There's a trick to it. You try not to go to the same meeting twice. You don't go to meetings that refer to the steps. The best meetings are candlelight meetings that are late at night, so you can pull your cap down kind of over your eyes and just whisper out the things that are going wrong in your life. I mean, it was a terrible way to.
But why are you even going? Nobody's making you.
Because I was still drawn to it.
Okay.
I was still drawn to it. It still felt like my home. Those were people that I could relate to. That's a community that I understood.
Yeah.
And I knew what I was. I was just living in terrible fear of telling the truth about myself.
So what finally happened that made you stand up and tell the truth?
Well, you mentioned did you meet somebody? Did you get a new sponsor? Did you get well, all that happened. I met somebody. I fell in love with somebody. And we were getting married, and we were going to have kids and get a family and do all that kind of good stuff. And I knew that I had to progress from where I was in order to be of any value. I had attended a 12-step meeting, and I heard somebody say, what's the point of all this unless I'm here to serve, unless I'm here to give something away? And I heard that same thing that had resonated in my heart, that same question that I had. It made a real impact on me. And the gentleman that said that, I asked him to be my sponsor, and he did. And the other part of it was, I felt like I either have to tell the truth to somebody and be able to dump all this baggage that I'm carrying with me, or I need to kill myself. And it was a sober thought, and it scared me. So my sponsor at the time put me in a headlock, actually. Really put me in a headlock. And he said, look, you just need to give me a date and a time, and you're going to give me this 4th and 5th step. And we're going to go through and we're going to do this. So I did what he demanded. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that I could not find his house the day that I was supposed to go out there. I was meandering all over the place, hoping that I couldn't find it. And unfortunately, I found it. Fortunately, I found it. And he told me, he said, okay, here's the deal. Well, he said a couple things that were really profound. One is he asked me what my concept of God was. And I had no concept. I said something in the ether. You know, I was raised a Christian, but I had no real contact. So I said it was something in the ether.
Would you have considered yourself a Christian at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And after that, he said, okay, take a knee. And this always gets me.
Take your time.
He put his hand on me and he prayed for me. And you have to understand the stature of this man. He's large, covered in paint, just a beautiful soul, but terrifying maybe for some people to look at. Older than me. And he was a representation to me of something that was very powerful. And he humbled himself in front of God and asked God on my behalf that I'd be able to be truthful and honest to somebody for the first time in my life. Mm. And there was something that happened to me when he prayed. I'll never forget that. So he threw me in his pickup truck and he said, okay, here's the deal. The deal is I've got stuff to do today. I'm going to go do my stuff, and your job is to talk to me. So start talking. And he fired up his pickup truck, and we headed down the road.
This is so weird you're saying this, because before you said it, I was thinking that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa, this is weird.
So I spit out a couple of little truths, a couple of easy things that are, no big deal. And then the stuff that had been cooking in me for decades bubbled to the surface, and I decided I was either going to tell him the truth or I was going to jump out on the highway. And I told him what I had done. And he pulled over to the side of the road and he said, I love you, Jeff. He said, I do not judge you. He said, God loves you. And he said, that happened to me too. Mm. And it was like all of it just got lifted off. And we've all got those things, and I don't even care what they are. You can have an Olympics of the bad stuff that you did, and I'm telling you, we'd all win. I mean, we all have the same things that are just eating our lunch. But it was a secret that I had, a couple of secrets that I had, and I just carried them around. I knew I was going to carry them to the grave, but I didn't. I was honest, and I gave them to one other person. And I went through the next 9 hours unpacking a bunch of other stuff. My wife at the time, actually, she thought I had gone back out drinking because I was gone so long. But it was a revelation for me, and everything changed at the time I did that and shared the real me. Everything was different from then on.
When do you think you got the Holy Spirit? Do you think it was when he prayed on you?
I think it was. Okay. I think it was.
Okay. Well, I want to share something with you before we get done. I've been sober a little over 4 years, and I made the decision to quit drinking in the middle of Alpha, and it was my first Alpha. And you were a shepherd. This was during the day, and Ed Nichols was my host or whatever, Ed and his wife. And I'm J. Michael McCoy. So you're not going to label me an alcoholic. You're not going to put me in a box.
Right.
If I've got a drinking problem, then I'll quietly keep it to myself, and I will not, under any circumstances, go into a meeting with long-bearded people with bottles in brown paper bags who live under the bridge. And there were a couple people in the beginning that said, you're just like me, and you were one of them. And I don't know if you remember that day, but Carl Voss shared with me. Remember old Carl?
Oh, yeah.
Carl's, because I said to Carl, who in the church can I talk to? And he said, Cal. And he said, you know Jeff? Yeah, I know Jeff. Well, Jeff's been sober 20 years or whatever it's been. And you probably don't remember this, but we were standing outside, and I was nervous as a raccoon I was nervous because I was going to come up and tell you that I had been, 21 days sober or whatever, and I didn't know what to think because you were, like that large guy you spoke of that stood over you. Well, that's kind of how you are at church to a lot of us. You're very spiritual, and you're a very wonderful man. And we were standing there, and I remember you just looked at me and you said, oh, man, that's great. Just keep going. That's great. There's a lot of us around here. And you walked away. And I thought, well, maybe it's not such a horrible thing. Maybe it's something I can live with, and I can be normal. In fact, maybe I can even be above normal. Maybe I can feel at home once again. So I want to thank you for that. That was probably
you're welcome.
May 20th, May 30th
I
of
remember that, Mac.
2010. Do you?
I do
Stand in the
remember
middle?
that. Yeah.
Tell you what, it meant the world to me. It just meant the world to me. So, and then I met Lila, and I beautiful women, that they could be terrible drunks. And I met her husband, and I realized executives could be terrible drunks. And then I kept meeting lawyers and judges and radio guys and TV guys. And before I knew it, like you said, I was home.
Yeah.
Most comfortable place I've ever been. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Love you. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man.
Lila, thanks for being here. Bob, nice to have you back. See you again for another week or 2 weeks or whenever it is you come back. Ryan, thanks for producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Do me a favor. Go up to that person that you've never really liked very well and you've carried a resentment against them, and do me a favor and drop to a knee and ask God to forgive them, because he'll forgive them the way you forgive them.